All right. So here we are with this terrifying number 35 and 9.5. Who's terrified? Show of hands. Oh, not all the hands. Okay, that's good. All right. I personally am filled with panic, but it's probably because I'm standing up here. So what do?
You want to get rid of the bottoms, so you're going to want to factor them to see if they have any common factors.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I could just kind of blindly multiply by all the bottoms multiplied together, right? But that's going to leave me with at least a 6th degree polynomial, probably a 7th degree polynomial, and that's going to be really kind of a nightmare. Okay? So let's factor everything first. So let's see. Probably off on some scratch something. I want to factor 2z squared minus 5z plus 3. Okay, so I look at this and I think what?
You want to multiply to 6 and add to negative 5.
Okay, so AC is 6. So I need multiply to 6, add to negative 5.
Negative 1 and negative 6.
Negative 3 and negative 2.
Oh.
That's what I want. Okay, so multiply to 6, add to negative 5 is negative 2, negative 3. So let's see, maybe minus 2z minus 3z plus 3. Right? Okay, then I want to factor by grouping, right? So I factor out a what out of the first two?
2z.
Oh, 2z.
2z. And I'm left with
Z minus 1.
z minus 1. And then out of the other bit, I factor out a
3.
what am I left with?
Negative z plus 1?
Negative, oh, shoot.
Yeah, you should factor out a negative.
I want to factor a negative 3 out. Okay, so if I factor a negative 3 out, then I'm left with a
Z minus 1.
z minus 1. Now I can factor a z minus 1 out. What am I left with? 2z minus 3. Cool. All right, so that's the first one. Okay, so I can, really, this is factor, right? I've got a z minus 2, and that's over z minus 1 times 2z minus 3. Okay? All right, I better do the next one. So the next one is a
3z minus 2z minus 1.
3z squared minus 2z minus 1. Okay, so I look at that and I think AC is negative 3. So I need to multiply to negative 3, add to negative 2 is negative 3 plus 1. Okay, so I got this. All right, what do I factor?
3z.
Okay, so I can factor a 3z out of the left half. What am I left with?
Z minus 1.
And what do I factor out of the second one?
Nothing. A 1.
How about a 1? Yeah. What am I left with?
Z minus 1.
Z minus 1. The 1 is really just symbolic, right? I don't really need it, but it helps me for some reason. So then I factor a z minus 1 out, right? What am I left with? 3z what? Plus 1. Okay, so that's this one. So this one is over z minus 1 and a 3z plus 1. Oh, that's good. These share a common factor at least, so maybe I'll save myself some work with this whole factoring business. All right, so now I need to factor the last one. Okay, so the last one is 6z squared minus 7z minus 3. So I look at that and I think AC is negative 18. So I need 6z squared. Let's see, multiply to negative 18, add to negative 7.
9 and 2.
That looks like
9.
Yeah.
minus 9z plus 2z minus 3. Did I do this right?
Yep.
Okay, so what do I factor out?
2z.
3Z.
Yeah,
3z looks like. So I got a 3z, and then I get a 2z minus 3 plus, what do I factor out of the second bit of stuff? 1, yeah. Times 2z minus 3. So now I can factor out a 2z minus 3. And what am I left with? 3z plus 1. Okay. All right, so this stuff, the stuff I've been working with on the left equals 3z over 2z minus 3 times 3z plus 1. Yeah. You didn't have a question?
No.
Okay. What? What do I do? Oh my god.
Now you want to definitely multiply all of them by 3z plus 1.
Okay, so if we multiply by
And,
3z plus 1
and by z minus 1.
and by z minus 1,
And for the inner 2, you want to multiply the 3 by the 2z minus 3, the 3 over stuff by the 2z minus 3, just so that it's the same as the z minus 2. Yeah.
okay, take all this business, multiply by the common bottom, right? Okay, so if I multiply all this business by the common bottom, right, I'm going to get the whole common bottom I'm so glad you talked me into multiplying by the whole common bottom, Lucas. This is such a great idea.
I said 3 different steps in 1 sentence.
Okay, so all this junk, right, times this first thing. Relax. I know it's scary. I really do. This is terrifying. But lots of stuff's going to cancel, right?
I think so.
I just have to make sure I distribute this thing, and then lots of stuff's going to cancel, and my life will actually be pretty chill. So I multiply this whole thing by this right-hand side. So I'm going to need to distribute, so I'm going to do that. So I get a z minus 2 over, I've got a z minus 1 and a 2z minus 3. So that's the first term after I distribute. Then there will be a second term. Oop. And this is going to be equal to 3z over 2z minus 3 times 3z plus 1 times the whole common bottom. So I've got a 3z plus 1 times a z minus 1 times a 2z minus 3. Okay, and all the rest of this stuff was scratch work, so I don't need it right now. Okie dokes, right? That was basically horrible to write down. But what can I do?
Canceling.
Yeah, now we could just run through and cancel like mad. So what cancels out of this first term?
Z minus 1 and 2z minus 3.
Okay, so there's a z minus 1 on the top and the bottom. Then there's a 2z minus 3 on the top and on the bottom. Let's go with that. Okay, how about middle term?
Z minus 1 again.
Okay, the z minus 1's cancel again. And
3z plus 1.
the 3z plus 1's cancel again. Then on this guy, see there's a 3z plus 1 on top and bottom,
And 2z minus
and a 2z minus 3 on top and bottom. You see that?
Yes.
So what am I left with?
3z squared plus 7 minus 2 plus 6z minus 9 is equal to 3z squared.
Okay, so
3. Where did you get the square?
he's distributing a bunch of stuff. So there's a 3z plus 1 on the left, on the far left. And what's that multiplied by?
Z minus 2.
A z minus 2. Okay, what's left in this middle term?
Plus 2z minus 3 times 3.
Okay, so there's a 3 times a 2z minus 3. Right? Okay, what's left on the right-hand side? There's a 3z
Times z minus 1.
times a z minus 1. You guys cool with that? So what was this step actually? What did I actually do there?
You just didn't, you wrote down everything that was left after canceling.
Yeah, this was really just a rewrite. There wasn't actually anything there. Okay, then what?
Now you'll multiply it out, either distributing or foiling as necessary.
Okay, so we multiply it out, which is a FOIL distribute. Okay, so when we FOIL, what do we get?
3z squared minus 6z plus z minus 2.
Okay, so 3z squared minus 6z plus z minus 2. Then I get plus
6z minus
6z minus 9 equals,
3z squared minus 3z.
okay, that's where Lucas got his z squared from, right? Let's cool with that. So that was multiplied out, now what? Okay, combine like terms. So let's see, there's a 3z squared. How many z's are there on this side? Maybe do this. Do you guys know a technique for this?
Well, if there's this.
I pretty often just do this. Like, okay, here's the z squareds in squares. Any more z squareds? Not on that side, just on the other. Then there's z's, right? So z's.
There's negative 6 and 7, so there's just 1.
Oh, so this one and that one actually just straight up cancel, right? And that's an additive cancel. So I'm left with nothing from it. So I get a z. It kind of survived. Then I've got a 2 and a 9,
Negative 2.
both negative. Means I've got a minus 11, right? Okay, now what?
Subtract 3z from both sides, add 3z. But 3z squared. So it's going to add 3z.
Okay, so subtract 3z squared, add 3z to both sides. That'll give me a 0 over here, and on the other side I'll get a,
Or z minus 11.
oh yeah, the z squareds cancel. Then there's 4z's minus 11. Okay, so then what?
Add 11 to both sides.